Hi folks, this is Deana Paqua. I am a teacher and practitioner of cross-cultural energy medicine and contemporary shamanism. And I wanted to share a little bit more with you about the holistic shamanic practitioner program that I facilitate once a year starting the end of October. And I still have some spots available this year if it feels like it's calling to you. So I want to share a little bit more about what that program is about. First of all, I should share what it's not, and that is training to be a traditional shaman. So shamans come from one particular region of the world, and it's the Evenki tribal region of Siberia. Now, there are other traditions that offer or facilitate shamanistic type healing. So it's not the only place that that type of healing occurs, which is connecting with the spirit world to facilitate healing and going into the spirit world to work with helping spirits to facilitate healing. So those practices do run across different cultures and different traditions, but the very culturally specific way a shaman practices and the rituals and ceremonies and the way that they are initiated and called to that particular path is very culturally specific to that region. Every tradition, every culture has their own languages and their own titles for their healers and spiritual practitioners. So one way that we can show respect, especially a middle-aged white lady from Western Connecticut, is to properly address these cultures by the titles that they use themselves and not to appropriate and take a title that we haven't been given by that particular culture and the elders within that culture. But shamanism is a title for these spiritually based healing practices, and it gets attributed to a lot of different healing modalities. But the way that I teach it is based on core shamanism, which was a practice adopted by Dr. Michael Harner and his organization. And the way that it's taught is it's really a practice that can be shared with anyone. So we are not, you can be from any spiritual background, any spiritual tradition, and it's a way for connecting with our own personal spirit guides and helping spirits. It's not meant to imitate what traditional healers are doing or traditional shamans are doing. It's a spiritual practice meant for contemporary practitioners and traditional practitioners alike, where we go into an altered state of consciousness to connect with the spirit world and learn to connect with our own guides to facilitate specific healing practices, such as connecting with power animals and working with power animals and spirit animals. While it can be, a practice in a specific way attributed to North American traditions, it is a practice. Many cultures had totem animals and working with the animal spirits and the spirits of nature in many different ways. So that runs across many different cultures. But the way that we learn it is a way for us in contemporary society to do this in a respectful way, to connect with animal guides and guardians that want to work with us. Also spirits of trees and plants. And it's about developing our own relationships with them. So this foundational belief of everything being alive and filled with spirit or having spirits connected to them is this animistic foundation. And this animistic foundation runs across every tribal culture and tradition that I've studied across the globe. And that a lot of people confuse that with shamanism, but it's the going into an altered state and going into the spirit world to work with the helping spirits in the spirit world that makes healing a shamanistic practice, okay? So we can all learn to do this to some degree. It does not make us a traditional shaman, but it can be a shamanistic practice, okay? And that's what I teach in my program. Now, along with learning the contemporary shamanic journey process, learning to work with power animals, learning to connect with sources of empowerment, particular to a certain client and particular to ourselves, okay? We learn to connect with each of the cardinal directions and find out what specific energy or medicine is there for us individually. Okay, some call this the medicine wheel. It's really our personal medicine wheel, okay, about connecting with each of those directions and what spirit guides, what angels, what ancestors, what nature beings, what landscapes show up for us there, and where we can connect and find empowerment and healing, okay? So along with these contemporary shamanism practices in the program, we also follow a path connected with the Q'ero tribe of the Peruvian Andes. So the Q'ero have been sharing their wisdom and teachings with Westerners and people across the globe since the 1950s, when they were rediscovered, and they were able to stay somewhat separate, even though they were still affected by the infiltration of the Spanish into South America and Central America. They were able to keep some of their traditional healing ways alive, despite all of that hardship, okay? So they were rediscovered in the 1950s by Oscar Núñez del Prado, who was an anthropologist, and the glaciers were starting to melt. And in their prophecy, they believed that it was time for them to come down off the mountain to teach their ways to especially folks in Western culture, because we had lost our way of connecting with Mother Earth with humility and respect. Okay, and the majority of their healing practices, because they were at such high elevations in the Andes, they had some work with plants and herbal medicine, but the majority of their work is spiritually based forms of healing, and they were able to keep their tribe alive for thousands of years with these practices. And one of them is building a portable altar called a Mesa or a Misha. Okay, so we build a Mesa or a Misha in our practice, in my program, or the program that I facilitate, I should say. And we base it on some of the traditional teachings that I've learned over the past 15 years from these elders, and I do have permission to share them. Anyone who works with them over a period of time, that's why there are many teachers like me across the globe who are offering what we've learned with our teachers. And I've studied with indigenous elders from the Andes, from the Q'ero tribe, also from Ecuador, also from North America and Tibet for the past 18 years. Okay, and I've been a holistic practitioner for over 20 years. I'm a licensed massage therapist, and I have a master's in integrative health and healing. And you can read about my whole resume on my website on the About page. It gives my whole story and my story of healing from cancer and an anxiety, OCD disorder, and a near-fatal car accident. And that's what led me to this path. But I also had a sensitivity to the spirit world from when I was a kid. And maybe you have felt that way too. I could sense and feel spirits. I didn't really have a language for it in my family, though my dad could also communicate with the spirit world, and he would often see my grandmother who had passed, and she would communicate with him. So I had a sensitivity to the spirit world. I could also sense and feel other people's energy. Learned not that long ago about being an empath and being empathic, and having to learn tools and techniques to protect myself and to be a better facilitator of energy healing work. So the Q'ero in the Andes, along with building these beautiful Mishas, which are a combination of found stones from places that are sacred to the practitioner. So these two paths, the Andean path was shared with us so that we could reconnect with our love and deep respect for Mother Earth, and finding the places in nature that are sacred to us. The place where we were born, maybe, a place where we live now, some favorite places that we've traveled to if we've had that opportunity and privilege, even places around where we live that we find special and sacred. And we build the Misha based on those 12 stones, okay? And then a 13th stone is gifted to you by your teacher. And we learn how to work with the stones for healing practices. We learn to work with the Misha as an energy clearing and energy balancing tool, how to transmit healing energy through the Mesa. And I share what I've learned from my teachers over the past 15 years. And it's a very, very powerful practice. It's a way for us, both through the contemporary shamanic journey and through the Andean practices and building the Mesa, of finding our personal medicine, connecting with our own spirit guides, finding the places in nature that are sacred to us, finding our own empowerment through our spiritual relationships with ancestors, guardian angels, places in nature, and building those so that we can facilitate healing for ourselves and others. So that's what I teach. That's what I've had the honor of teaching and sharing. I know that my path is being the humble teacher of great heroes. I'm also an adjunct professor at our local university here in Danbury, Connecticut, Western Connecticut State University. It's an absolute joy of my life to work with these young people from very diverse backgrounds, races, ages. They are fantastic and they give me great hope for the future. But in addition to that, I have continuing ed classes that I teach through my Embody the Sacred work. So you can find out more information about me and the other practices and classes that I offer through embodythesacred.net. You can find that link below, or you may be on my website seeing this. I don't know, these videos kind of go all over the place these days. Keeping on top of the technology isn't easy. But anyway, I just wanted to share a little bit more in case you were interested, and it always helps to hear it more from the person, like, what the heck is this all about? It's been a great joy of my life to learn these practices from the wonderful teachers that I've had. They're all listed on my website, and you can find them there. They are all in a place of honor, both on my About page and both on the Shamanic training page, where you can find out the details of the program. There's still some spots available. I do have the opportunity to learn this work via distance through Zoom and in person for those who are local to Northwestern Connecticut. So I look forward to hearing from you. All the best. See you soon.